Try to keep this microphone close. My name is Senior Master Sergeant Jeff Witherly, headquarters AMC A3VX. Does anybody know what that means? I didn't until like 2 years ago. Someone help break it down for you. A3 is Directorate of Operations. We got a general officer running that. You go to the next digit. This is Stanival. That's V. The next digit is Combat Airlift. That actually includes C5s, which is pretty impressive. Woo! Again, headquarters Stanival. I'm going to let Chief Thurn take it real quick. We'll get some. This mic's next. In the end, Calm will screw you. We'll get some intros out, but I'm going to let these guys introduce themselves as their slides come up. Why did this happen to Macklin?
Too close to the speaker.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming out. I think it's important that we continue, obviously, with the POA and all that kind of thing, stuff. But wanted to bring the Stanival team out, the branches for each of your guys' airframes. Chief Matt Thurn, I am A3V. Along with Colonel Hanson and Pete Lawhead, we are A3V. Meaning as in Stanival for all of AMC, actually VMAF. We produce all of your publications, your guidance, and all that kind of stuff. Everything comes from the lead MAGCOM, which is AMC. The team here broken down into branches. Jeff Witherly runs the C-17 branch. Adam Monroy runs the J model branch. And then Phil Knight, who Southwest lost his baggage, which doesn't happen very often if you guys are Southwest fans. Is our C5 lead. All of my senior master sergeant positions, as in load masters, boom operators, all that kind of stuff, are vectored positions up there as well, so you guys know that. And then we have masters within each other branch. We have everything from flight attendants to CSOs, all through A3V as well. But obviously, we're just talking specifically load masters. As you guys know, and probably have throughout the years being load masters, there's changes within Stanival, and it goes through ups and downs. We are still very, very, very in line with policy, guidance, directives, and so forth. But as you guys notice, check rides and stuff like that change. The way different airframes are out and about in the systems change, but the one thing that's always the same is that we still play by the rules and we still follow guidance, right? Whatever's in the flight manuals and so forth. With Colonel Hanson being A3V, he has kind of moved in a different direction of how he wants evaluations to happen. We still have obviously pyramid evaluations and so forth, but evaluations are meant to be given obviously annually, but in the system versus just local base kind of stuff. So you will see a presence of Stanival out in these systems a lot more frequently than you did in the past. You may just see them at your base, but you will start seeing them in deployed locations and so forth. That's just his directive on how he wants to watch certain things operationally happen. Lastly, programs like the RTRB, our training tables, all that kind of stuff, that's what Stanival is there to help with as well, is to help guide those things and make sure that we are training to the appropriate levels for those near-peer adversaries. So that's one of our big pushes as well. So I'll let Jeff Witherly take over as the C-17 guy. We do have some inbounds. I'll let the other folks talk about their inbounds, but here's Jeff.
All right, thanks, Chief. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Woo. Okay, again, my name is Jeff Witherly. I can introduce myself, and then when the other team leads go to brief their slides, they can introduce themselves as they like. I was a maintenance guy at one time on C5s. Okay, then I did about 8 years as a Charleston loadmaster, went to Altus Schoolhouse, and then I wound up at Scott. It's pretty cool. I grew up a small, poor boy in war-torn South Carolina, and wound up all the way to the MC staff. So really neat for me. I'm proud of you too. My team, Brandon Lenz has actually been with me. He's been here longer than I have. We have an amazing relationship, and we've been kind of working just the two of us for a while for C-17. So we're welcoming Josh Denny and Josh Watson. You guys want to stand up so the C-17 guys know what you look like. I appreciate it.
Hello.
Cool. Welcome.
That wasn't intentional hires either.
All right, so Chief Three kind of touched on this. One thing we do, we author and interpret policy, okay? We have some hand in writing policy, and we do a lot of review of the flight manuals, but a big part of our job daily is interpreting it, okay? You guys see something some way, maybe a stand-about shop reads something some way. Our job's kind of come in and interpret it the best way possible to meet the intent of the regulation. We do administer pyramid and no-notice evaluations. We have 10 bases under our purview for both guard and active duty that we administer pyramid evaluations to. And it keeps us pretty busy, but no notices, we are, for lack of better terms, balls to the wall out there in the system doing no notice evaluations. Raise your hand if you've gotten a no notice from AMC Stanwell. Cool, congratulations, good job. Well played, I hope. Another thing we do, we augment the IG teams when we go out and do these UEIs. So the compliance inspections, essentially now we've moved to a capstone for these IG inspections, whereas they go and do a bunch of self-reporting throughout the year, tell on themselves. They only tell on themselves a little bit, and then we come in at the end of the year and we help them kind of figure out where they can improve on their processes. But as subject matter experts, we'll go in and actually augment those guys. Providing recommendations to key decision leaders. One thing I really want to emphasize from the stand-about portion, we don't waive anything, we don't make any huge decisions, but we talk directly to the folks that are in positions to make these decisions. Sometimes these are strategic moves to where maybe they just want to see what we can do in a couple years for capabilities, or maybe, no kidding, there's an aircraft on the ground at FOB X, and they need a waiver at that moment, and they walk into our cubicle and they're like, I need a process right now, and I need your recommendation, and we can make that recommendation, and that person with the star on their shoulder can actually go in there and make sure that that crew gets out of harm's way. So this stuff happens. We provide 24/7 on-call assistance. I have the phone on me right now. Thank you, TACC. Appreciate you guys. It keeps me up at night. I'd say 99% of our phone calls come from TACC. They typically don't come from a loadmaster or a crew, but we get calls, and TACC is typically running a waiver checklist. They want to waive something on the maintenance side, the MEL side. We just make key recommendations, whether we think it should be a waiver or not. We don't waive anything, and we'll get into something here in a little bit, but basically we will never tell you to do something or take something against the flight manual or against policy. That is not our thing. If you're asking for a waiver to do that, we have a process in place to do that, but that's not my job to tell you to break a flight manual or to go against your comfort level. All right, the biggest thing, and I want to drive this home, our job up there is to standardize things and keep you guys safe. A lot of passion goes into writing this policy and interpreting the policy, but the big picture at the end of the day is making sure you guys go home to your families. I really want to drive that home. A lot of people look at us as the black hats, and that may be sometimes the case, but the big picture is that we don't want anyone dying on our watch, and we author policy to make sure that happens. All right, here's the stuff we do not do. Does everybody know what an 847 is? 847 is for actually changing a flight manual, sometimes AFI policy. Still got 847s. So we don't write them typically. You guys do. You guys actually author changes, propose changes to the flight manuals. Ironically, next week here in McCord is going to be the flight manual review conference for the C-17s. This is where we actually go in there with all the 847s you've done throughout the year. Brandon pulls his hair out of his head, and puts these all into a database, and we all sit there and talk about them at the end of the year. And then the forces that be either say yay or nay, and we provide justification why or why not. We don't write flight manuals. I didn't know this until a year ago. We don't write flight manuals. We have people whose whole job is writing flight manuals. Sometimes, depending on how our workload is and our bandwidth, we don't see flight manual changes until just a few days before you guys do. We've been trying to work to fix that, but there's a lot of times we'll get a call and they'll be like, hey, what's up with this on paragraph yada yada? And I'm like, I'm looking at it now, okay? So just understand that it's not our job to author flight manuals, but we're trying to work to be better at reviewing them before you guys get them. And sometimes it's just a lack of workforce bandwidth up there. We don't waive absolutely anything. No one at my level waives anything. It takes some brass to do that, but waivers do happen, and they happen based on justification from us. So if you call me as like, hey, I'm on a lavatory, can I take it? I can't tell you you can fly without a lavatory. But if you guys really want to fly without a lavatory, I can make that happen, push you in the right direction. We can hopefully get you guys airborne. I don't recommend it though. All right. Again, what I said earlier, we do not, in the cornfields of Illinois where I live, we don't tell you guys to accept cargo that you're not comfortable with. If you get on the phone and you're like, hey, look, I'm at LZX, they're trying to give me this piece of equipment. I've got 3 Atlas cert letters here. I've gone into the section 4. I can't figure this out. My other loadmaster's already left the plane upset. I don't think we can get this on the plane. I'm not going to tell you to just load it and have a good day. I'm going to try to walk you through it. I'm going to try to give you some advice based on my experience, but we're not going to say, just shut up and load it, all right? We're actually going to walk you through it. If you say you're going to frustrate it, my job's over. I'm probably going to expect some calls, maybe from the floor or maybe from leadership, and I'll speak on your behalf. But I can tell you that in my experience, nobody's ever gotten any trouble for stuff that they were uncomfortable loading or they needed help with. If you need training, speak up. We can get you that. I work really close to that. All right, you like that? Don't fear the Reaper. For our folks, I really aim to be approachable. I do. I want to be approachable. I want to help. It's my theory that at every level that you're working at, whether you're an FL, an ML, or an IL, or an EL, you should be working towards one qualification, and that's IL. I see a lot of MLs not trying to teach people, even though they have some more experience. Just because you don't wear the instructor badge doesn't mean you can't show somebody some experience. I see a lot of ILs trying to be ELs. Yeah, I see that a lot. Your job is to be an instructor. Your job is to find out what people don't know and show them. Your job is not to evaluate them. And then for the evaluators, we're in the best position to go out and instruct. After I'm done with the check ride, you bet that we're going to spend a little time and I'm going to show them some stuff that I just don't think they've seen before. We have a real, especially in the C-17 department, we have a real knowledge gap for airdrop. It's probably only going to get worse for a little bit. So when I'm down at Pope, I don't just do an eval and then head to Waffle House. Like, I'll stick around, we're going to go over some personnel stuff, we're going to make sure people know how to do things, and we're going to give their leadership feedback, non-retributional feedback on how to better train their people. We are the eyes and ears of AMC, sometimes all the way up to General Miller, and we've had some initiatives that go all the way up to the CSAF. We are, no kidding, in a position, we're in a really good position when we're out there jumping lines and flying with crews to be able to identify obstacles that you guys have. We've done some immediate action stuff. Unfortunately, I've pissed off a couple commanders, and it does happen, but it's at the end of the day, I sleep pretty well. Big part of our job is to identify training deficiencies. Our sole job as evaluators is to evaluate the training process from cradle to grave. I had an excellent opportunity to teach at the FTU, and then I got to immediately go out and fly with the product of the FTU, and it's phenomenal. And I have a direct line to go right over to A3T, which is training, and say, hey man, this is what we're seeing. This is stuff we'd like to get in. Does it take time to get from evaluation to training standard? Yeah, it does. It takes time. But it's part of our job. All right, stolen from Chief Kenny Rosa, sharks in the water. Speaking for the C-17 side, I'll let the other airframes speak to it, but we are always out there. Literally have given hundreds of no-notice check rides out the system. We are TDY quite often. If we step to your aircraft, we're just looking for you to follow your flight manuals, follow your checklists, do your job, be safe, make good decisions, have good pubs, and you're going to pass your check ride. And I mean that. That's seriously. If anybody wants the formula, that's the formula. You're going to pass your check ride. I've been in this shop for going on 3 years. I've only given 2 Q3s since I've been there, and those 2 people are now married to each other, so call me a matchmaker. I want you guys to embrace the opportunity, and I know that sounds terrible, but my first no-notice check ride as a baby load master was from Chief Albright. Scared the living shit out of me, and All it did though is it set me up for the next thing. It showed me what I didn't know, showed me how to prepare for instructor, and then I got another one from Chief Rosa. I kept getting hit, and then I became Stanival, and then I kind of saw the process. I saw how it worked, and I realized that no notice check rides, they're just an opportunity, and it's an amazing opportunity where I've seen young airmen that maybe their leadership didn't think really highly of them, or maybe they just kind of getting passed up, and then they do really well on a check ride, and then all of a sudden it's like, holy cow, this guy just went out, this A1C went out and got a Q1 with an excellent and a couple commendables from Stanival. Maybe I've kind of looked over this dude. So, all right, can't get on here, it's special. You get the Heisman right there at the crew stairs. Been there, seen it. Randy gets it more than I do. It's not as charming. If we step to your aircraft, I can assure you we're authorized to give you guys a check ride. There are some exceptions, but it is not just I roll out of bed at the KMCC, stroll downstairs, start looking at a big board like, who am I going to jump today? A lot goes into that. Actually, it could be upwards of weeks. You guys don't even know you're being hunted. It's actually I love Facebook. I can just type into the search engine, KMCC, boom, you guys put your room numbers up, come hang out, come party. I will. I'll show up. And then I'll show up the next day. All right? It's great tools. Embrace technology. But no, seriously, if we've stepped to your jet, if you really have a bona fide reason thinking you can't get an eval on there, yeah, talk to me. We'll work that. But we've done a lot of coordination leading up to it. Our boss, when I say the A3, I mean general officers, they want us flying on absolutely every mission set. For the PNAF folks, we do have a group of folks up at MatchCom that actually give you guys oversight. You're probably not going to see us on a whole lot of PNAF stuff, but otherwise you're going to see us on just about everything. All right, speaking specifically for C-17 stuff, okay? I have cut this slide way down because we have other folks talking. We got the other airframes here. But okay, so this has been in the works. Anybody that's worked in Stanival, or especially our leadership, they know that we've worked for years to try to get a config page downstairs for the loadmasters. We love holding loadmasters accountable for stuff that happens in the cockpit. If we crash into something or we don't put the gear down, it's always a loadmaster fault. If the pilots do something wrong, it's a CRM issue. We know that. So, this has been going on way before me, but no kidding, we've had some success in recent years. It's now a mission essential requirement to get some sort of configuration page saying what status the aircraft is in downstairs. Now this is kind of an ambiguous requirement, but essentially we're looking at potentially putting it down there on the ADTD. And correct me if I'm wrong, Ashley, you guys already do this at Edwards. Okay, you don't have to speak to it. All right, Flash sold you out. But yeah, this is something that's been a fight for a long time. Just to make it onto the first slide of the requirements board, you got to be one, a pilot, and then two, you got to have a big voice. I have neither of which, so we are not on the first slide for requirements. We're somewhere in the low to mid-teens for requirements for this aircraft for that. But just to be in the running and having mission essential items, kind of a big win for us. So hopefully somebody can drive that one home. Format transferability from alternate devices. This is something that has been looked at. It's looked at on all kinds of airframes, but that is something that, and I can't speak to acquisitions department, but that's something that's been out there to see about maybe sending something from the EFB to the airplane. I'm sure somebody today is going to want to speak to that issue. I had to send Brandon a text in a hotel today, and I'd show my humility. So, Brandon, what's SCR mean? It's like software change request, you idiot. So, software change request for the cargo compartment forensics. Let me speak specifically to this one. This one has a lot of airdrop behind it, but essentially what it is we have forensics in the cockpit for anything, any switchology that happens in the aircraft. And so anytime we have a malfunction or an accident or something, we're able to tell what happens. Not the case downstairs, okay? If we have an airdrop and the loadmaster says the locks just magically came out, honestly, we have to go off of just basing on integrity, moving forward with the crisis management team through the Boeing engineers, working with their Stanival tactics. It's a long process. And these things keep happening. And it's not just the locks issues, but there's a lot of things that happen where if we just had that small piece of information of what switch was flipped at which time, we can totally move forward better with that crisis management team and get some better data. And this is not about putting body cams on Loadmasters and showing them it's the Loadmaster's fault. No, it's about getting that factor out, like saying, hey, it's not the Loadmaster's fault. We need to seriously take a look at our airplanes. We need to take a look at our maintenance. We need to point some fingers at the engineers, and we need to get this stuff fixed. We can't always do that when we don't have forensics in the back of the jet. Does this make sense to folks? This is not just airdrop related, combat offloads. Anything in the back of the aircraft that requires tactical switch operation, and then us to go back and investigate. Synthetic winch cable. Who's heard of this for the C-17? You guys heard of this? Okay, I'm going to start by saying, thanks Phil. I'm going to start by saying that this is not like the C5. There's a lot of skepticism because of the differences in the C5 and C-17. This is a plug-and-play replacement for the steel cable you guys are familiar with. This is, no kidding, a synthetic cord that's just going to get put right into the winch in the same spot. All your numbers are going to be the same. The only thing different is we're going to have some differences of inspection criteria for it. And Brandon and I like to call it the 5 phases of fuzzy. And that's how you're going to inspect your winch cable. But we have a long way to go with this as far as the inspection criteria and how Loadmasters are going to deem whether a winch cable is safe. But I want to foot stomp this. Regardless of what our inspection criteria is for this new winch cable, and I'll talk a little bit more about it, it's going to be the Loadmaster's determination of whether that cable is serviceable. That's going to be the absolute caveat. If you don't think it's serviceable, you're not going to use it, you're going to report that stuff directly to us. We have 6 synthetic winch cables in our building. One of them sitting in my cubicle. We're looking at sending 2 to Charleston. It's going to look like we send 2 to McCord, but one of them has to go down to the Department of Energy for the PNAF stuff. We're going to send one to a guard unit, one to a unit that handles banner missions. We're going to try to spread them out, and we're going to do an operational test of the synthetic winch cable. It could take upwards of a year. There is a lot of red tape. This is a case model for, at least for me, to learn how stuff gets moved through the system. It takes a long time, but luckily we've got some good people behind it. The synthetic winch cable is moving pretty fast. Now, this thing has clear weight benefits for the aircraft. It's going to be considerably lighter, but one of the kind of byproducts of it is it's a much safer winch cable. Where you guys have all seen the pictures, the lavatories have been chopped in half. That's probably not going to happen with this thing. This thing does not retain energy. When it breaks and snaps, it falls to the floor. Now granted, you do not want to be behind that vehicle that is now heading down the ramp. That's still going to kill you, but hopefully you're not going to get cut in half by a winch cable. Okay, so I know you guys have kind of seen something with the flight manual stuff, the paper going away. Okay, we're in a very crawl, walk, run phase. A few months ago, we kind of started the crawl phase, and some units have chosen to crawl, some of them are just waiting to run, and that's the best way I can describe it. Your OGs can decide how to handle this situation, but let me tell you, the end state is going to be a paperless aircraft, and you have to understand that this is the industry standard that follows the airlines. We are not pioneers in this. Your EFBs are going to become more and more the flight manuals you're going to carry. Okay, there are some paper backups in place for emergency procedures. We're going to have, your Section 3 stuff available for you at all times. But just understand that this is not something that we sit in C-17 cubicles and go, I think I want to get rid of paper pubs this week. We're definitely following an industry standard, and other airframes have already done it. We're just trying to introduce it at the right rate and at a crawl, walk, run. And we'll be happy when questions come up to answer any questions about that. But all your Standard-Val folks are very well aware of this stuff. Okay, I built these slides before Phil released the next generation pallets thing. Let me just touch on the next generation pallets. These things are just use them. Okay, they're out of the system. They're there for operational test. They look the same as your 463L. They're hard to tell except they have some line paint around them, okay? Essentially, when they show up your jet, you use them, inspect them for serviceability if you'd like, report any damages straight to us, but just understand the idea, besides the FCI FAA release, the idea is just to use them and let us know if you have any problems, but they're in the system. They were getting frustrated for a long time, but hopefully the FCIF has mitigated that. All right, got a foot stomp ASAP reporting. So everybody doesn't know what ASAP reporting is. Okay, this is essentially a fast way for you as the crew member, regardless of crew position, to get information from what just happened all the way to people that are in the know. So you can either go on the app, which there's an app that's located in your workspace, your MDM workspace on your EFB, your iPad. You can use the app, or you can go online. And if anybody wants, I can tell you that, but I don't expect you guys to memorize that website right now. But you can even Google ASAP reporting Air Force, and that's going to bring it up. Let me tell you what ASAP reporting does. It takes what you just experienced, what you just did, and it goes right to a group of folks that sit just a few cubicles from us. They look at it, they redact some key information, they keep it anonymous, and they send it out to all the subject matter experts and go, hey, what do you guys think? And we have to respond to it. Some of these ASAPs have had significant immediate action. We had one of our really sharp dudes from Stewart Air National Guard Base. He sent me a picture and said, hey man, just so you know, I'm about to file an ASAP on this, but this is crazy. Let me show you what Aerial Port's doing. And Aerial Port wasn't doing anything incorrect. It was a hazmat thing. They weren't doing anything incorrect per the 24204, but what they were doing was unnecessary. There was a better way to do it. So he sent me a picture of some lithium batteries sitting on top of a bunch of drums of fuel and said, I don't think this is a good idea. And we said, I agree. And it was probably the fastest turnaround. Went right downstairs to A4, which is our logistics folks, started talking to them, opened up the dialogue, and we got stuff fixed. And that's just one example. I will tell you that there are some things that you guys file ASAPs for that should really just be a safety form. Okay, we've gotten ASAPs that said, hey, I think the bus that pulls up at the KMCC is going to kill somebody. Cool, thank you. I want you to report that. There's a form in place, and you can go talk to ground safety at Ramstein. Okay, and it's kind of funny. I'm making light of it, but I worry that sometimes when you guys file ASAPs on this stuff, it's not going to get fixed the right way. That is definitely a reportable item. But ASAPs carry a lot of weight. We have to respond to them, and a few of us have taken a passion in responding to them. A few of us have gotten locked out of responding to them. They're PCS. But does anybody have any questions while I'm on the ASAP topic? Okay. Vol 3 guidance. Let me explain a little bit about what's going on with Vol 3. So our MDS Vol 3, your C-17 Vol 3, is currently at half, Headquarters Air Force, for final publications. The lawyers just went through their final review. When the lawyers get involved, you're almost done, okay? The reason why it's taken so long for the Vol 3 is our MDS Vol 3, just like all of them, got bloated. It got filled with information. And then you start realizing, well, this is the same information the C5s use. This is the same information the C-130s use. Why are we doing this? And then you start filling up an AMC or a MAF sub. And as you're filling out the sub, filling it up, then you have one giant reg, and then you have a bunch of MDSs. Like, cool, well, what really needs to happen? They all kind of need to get released at the same time. Otherwise, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But currently, we're waiting on our MDS Vol 3 to get released, and we already have the AMC sub. Basically, the current guidance, which is kind of goes against everything you guys have ever been taught. The guidance is to go with the most current guidance, not necessarily precedence of hierarchy. You need to go with the most current guidance until we get this C-17 Vol 3. I used to be in the business of making promises. Probably a year ago, I said we're a month away. We're not. So I'm not making any promises. You're going to have a Vol 3 someday. Not bad. All right, the last thing, and I don't want to take too much more time. Oh, we're doing okay. The last thing I want to say for the C-17 guys is slow down. That's it. For my retired folks, raise your hand if you were fighting in the Afghanistan or Iraqi AOR. Cool. Yeah, we're still in there, okay? We're still there. A lot of you young guys, I really appreciate your passion. You're not going to win this war tomorrow, okay? I need you guys to slow down. Just read your flight manuals. When it says that the tows shall be used for this instance, guide rails, roller conveyors, tows. I kind of have a tow fetish. I like using them. The tows keep material handling equipment away from the aircraft. The guide rails actually will stop you from bending logistics rails. Go figure. We're still doing that, Chief. We're still bending logistics rails. So, yeah, we're tearing them up like Coke cans. So what I need you guys to do, I need you to slow it down. Raise your hand if you've been Q3 for a late takeoff. Me neither, okay? If you bend metal, you're not gonna take off on time, okay? If you just do your job, follow the flight manual. I had to get on my soapbox for 1 minute on that because we recently had a special interest item. There's a lot going on in the AOR right now. I'm working directly with folks in the AOR on this stuff specifically, but just slow down, okay? What was the last thing I was going to say? Oh, just before I quit, speaking to the retired folks in the area, I know you guys are all over social media, you're reading our stuff, and our young loadmasters are just terrible, they're doing all the wrong things. Let me just assure you, I fly with the youngest people on the planet. We don't have a bunch of snowflakes. We don't have people with cry rooms. We don't have anxiety peacocks on the aircraft. We don't have that shit, okay? We got a bunch of really dedicated, intelligent people that are just looking for instruction. That's all they're looking for. And if we're not giving it to them, that's our fault. That's not their fault. So when you see, us being stuck in the mud, and I'll go through all the C-17 cliches, stuck in the mud and 89-degree banks and stuff like that, okay? Somewhere there's an airman needs training. It's our job to validate that. So that's it. I'm probably about to turn it over. Does anybody have any, while you're fresh in your head, does anyone have any C-17 specific stuff for me they'd like to talk about? Man, I'm a great speaker. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Adam.
Wow. I'm not as good a speaker as he is, so I'll try to make this a little bit quicker. All right, Adam Monroy, Senior Master Sergeant type over at A3VX, which I just recently figured out what it was as well. That's a lot. All right, so just gonna go over, this is more of a primer. I'm gonna go to lunch with a lot of the loadies. So if you have any specific C-130 questions after this, again, we're going to lunch. I'll be able to answer a hell of a lot, in a lot more detail than I will be out over here, so just kind of keep that in mind. For the flight manual changes, Form F removal is in progress. Okay, so this has been rumored for, I don't know, probably a long time, really. We're doing a two-tiered kind of attack on this one. Right now, I'm rewriting the addenda, or the addenda A came back from the lawyers. We're going to put an as required into our addenda A, and that as required is going to be predicated on the 1-1 Bravo-50, which is the Air Force requirements in for the Form F, and that's what requires us to do the actual Form S, whether it's electronic or handwritten. Chief Self over at Little Rock knows the guy personally who is in charge of that. And he said that they are willing to remove it as long as it does not violate any FAA regulations. So once we're done with this big AFI to AFMAN push, which should hopefully be in the next few months, we're gonna start attacking that, and we'll keep you guys up to date on that. Hopefully by the RTRB we'll have some answers on that one right there. Still pushing for a -1 revision. I got an email last week. It looks like we have found the funding for it, possibly. I gotta do the QA on the email to see if the guy actually knows what he's talking about. But if we do get this -1 revision, our EFB, I've looked at it over at Marietta. You're literally, if you know what you're looking for, 3 clicks away from finding the right answer within your pub. So that'll make navigation a whole lot easier. All right. And I'm pretty sure you guys saw the Ball 3 came out. MDS Ball 3 is significantly smaller, but you're going to find the 202 Ball 3 is going to be significantly bigger. Where am I going wrong? Where's the? There you go. All right, the one that people are probably more interested in is the current topic. All right, a new milk stool. If you ever see Luke McClymonds, give that guy a beer. He's been working his ass off for you guys to try and get this new milk stool. So the one that is out there that was actually sitting in our cubicle for quite some time is 33 pounds. It is not the carbon fiber one. That one's pretty much dead in the water for various reasons. Right now, AFSOC is taking the lead on it. We got an email from Air Force Research Lab, the head engineer that's been pushing it. He said that we got a SPO on the soft side. I don't know which SPO specifically actually bit off on it. So we are sending our milk stool, or our rendition of it, back to research labs. We're going to create 10 of them, and AFSOC is going to go test it out. So we may be using an innovation fund for it, but the big thing is it weighs 33 pounds. We got back all the ergo stuff from half. It is a lot better for our back, which is good. The old one is really bad for our back, as we all know. So we actually got some traction. I don't make promises. I've been here for less than a year. We're hoping on this one. This is the best we've ever gotten, the furthest we've ever gotten, and we finally, I think, figured out the process. Method C. It's with the tactics levels over in Las Vegas right now. At lunch, I can explain to you guys what it is if you don't know what it is. It's coming down. There's a bigger conversation about tactics driving procedures without repeating procedures that's going to happen. Just know it's coming. We'll probably need data from out in the field. We do have our concerns at A3V. They've been voiced. Feel free to give us the good, the bad, the ugly. What can we change? If it's going to be out there, we're going to have it. Let's at least make it the best that we got. That seat, the Loadmaster Crash Ready seat. I know I've been asked by a few people, hey, get rid of it. Unfortunately, it's not happening. It's here to stay. It's kind of hard to ask, General to divest in something that's already been invested in for safety concerns. What we can do best right now is make it as good as we possibly can with that in the back of the aircraft. It's probably the #1 spear I get when I talk to squadrons out in the system, and hopefully this can start kind of simmering that down. I think we have bigger issues to worry about, so it's here to stay. Turn the tailplane, eventually. All right, so the H blocks have been remanufactured. They have passed first muster. The tolerances are where they need to be. There was a deadline of June 21st that has come and gone that I have not seen in email traffic, but it is coming back. We will have the H blocks out and about and some unspecified time frame. We're hoping sooner than later. I don't think we're going to drive additional training to be done before you drop. It's really not that hard of a drop to do. If you want to do at a local level, that's upon you. But I'll talk with Sergeant Sullivan, but I don't know of anyone in A3T that's going to be pushing required training when these things come back. But we'll keep you guys up to date on that one. Keep talking to us when we fly. Chief Thurn touched on it. Jeff touched on it right there. We're out there trying to figure out what's wrong with the system. What can we do to make it better? You talk to us, it is pretty much a VFR direct over to building 1600, and it will get talked about. We brought, at least on the J side, I'm pretty sure the 17 side, C5 as well, we brought a few issues up, started taking care of them up at our level. Keep talking. When you come up to us, please make it somewhat quantifiable. This is stupid, I hate this. It's kind of hard to take to the colonel, it's kind of hard to take to A3T. When you talk to us, hey, this sucks because here's how we can do it better. That's what we can take up, and that's where we actually get some traction once we get back to headquarters. That's all I got. Again, I'll be going out with the lunch with the J guys. So if you guys have like real detailed oriented questions, feel free to hit me up. I'm always free to take spears. Anything in general that affects MBSs that you got a question with? Yes, sir.
Just for non-Jers and those who don't have an airplane anymore, what's the issue with the Form Fs?
With the J model, it is actually just you are plugging everything into the aircraft, and then you're stopping, and you're just transcribing. That's all you're doing. So if your Form F's wrong, but it's good in the box, your weight and balance is good. So it's kind of a redundant thing. We don't have printers like the C-17s do. C-5s fly at all.
We have.
Okay, so you got printers. So when they do fly eventually, I guess they have printers as well. So for the J model guys, it's a redundancy that takes time. Time is money.
Okay.
Chief?
Hey, can you explain a little bit more what the combat offload method C is and why they want to use it?
Why they want to use it, I don't know. It hits the A3V trying to get the Heisman. That was actually dropped at the WebTech as a I think by an AFSOC guy, I forget the guy's name. Hey, would you guys like this tactic? WebTech bit off on it. and it bloomed into something. I'll keep my opinions to myself, but it bloomed into something, and it somehow made its way through the system out there. So all method C is you put the ramp on the ground with the ground loading ramps, with protectors on the ground loading ramps. You slide the pallet all the way down, raise the ramp, pull the plane up from underneath the pallet. That's what method C is. And for you guys at AATC, you'll see the tactics bulletin trying to direct you guys to teach this, or don't worry, we're aware of it. We told the guy that's not how it works. So, any other questions? Yes.
Any word on for H models, 4MEF apps?
Okay, so the 4MEF app, the AMC derived one that they were developing lost funding in the last few weeks. I want to say it got halted. Again, Luke McClellan's. If you don't know Luke, he's your guys' savior, by the way. He's done a lot of work for you guys, but he's on the email traffic, and he kind of turned around before I left and say, hey, the funding for this EFB app, or the balance app is kind of at a standstill right now. And you guys will be getting new notes still too as well once we get the spring. We've been working with Pascal and Crown on that as well. Any other questions? Good, appreciate you.
Man, you didn't even give me a cut training on this? What?
Yeah, I didn't get it. Where's your uniform?
Good morning, everyone. Oh, hey, easy. Senior Master Sergeant Phil Knight. I'm up in A3V in the C5 side. Yay, okay. So I guess the Southwest baggage handler was an ex-aerial porter I pissed off in the past. That's kind of my conspiracy theory of why I don't have my uniform. So if you're offended by that, then okay. Anyway, so a little background on me, and then I'll try to make this quick. I started life as a B1 bomber maintainer for 5 years before I crossfitted to the C5. Been doing that for 17 years. Did do a stint for 4 years at the Ramstein CRG. Got to learn a little love on the C-17 and the C-130 side. Definitely an education for a strat airlift guy. So about 10 years ago, big changes to the C5, right? The M model came online. On the background of that, we also started to divest with the H model to the Guard and Reserves, and C-17 production stops, and then we lost all our A models to the boneyard, right? So that was probably a good 60-some aircraft that we lost. During that transition, US Transcom kind of figured, hey, this is kind of a really great airplane. I know, boo, hiss, whatever, right? So our mission capable rates skyrocketed now that the transition's fully complete. And this is reality, right? And through all the smack talking and stuff, the C-17 production's gone. Airlift is just a highly valued commodity throughout the DoD. So you guys are needed, you're wanted, you're loved. That's all we hear. Well, on the C5 side, we got 52 airplanes. They're ready to go, and Transcom, we're starting to see, since I've been up there for 3 years, a huge shift in as far as what the C5 is going to do. Now, some of you folks that were Vietnam, nickel brass, the first Gulf War, you're like, whatever, we did all kinds of stuff. Well, you were the new bird on the block. With the Iraq-Afghanistan war, they kind of pushed it to the side. The C-17 was the new shiny toy. Unfortunately, they're just getting the crap kicked out of them. And we can go into, double the cargo load, all that good stuff. But anyway, so what I'm seeing in my purview is I get a lot of folks coming over and, hey, can the C5 do this? And that's been a lot of not just going out there and doing evaluations and doing our day-to-day work with the flight manuals. For the C5 community, you can expect just changes, just a lot of crazy stuff that you're gonna see, you're gonna be doing with the capabilities. So I poked our A5 requirements guys, and that's another thing coming to staff. You get to learn a lot of new acronyms and a lot of letters and things like that. So our requirements, guys, anyone else knows this when it comes to upgrades to the aircraft, is that if it's behind the cockpit, they kind of don't give a shit anymore, right? There's a reason for that. It's not because they don't love us back there. It's because of some of this stuff up front. There's requirements internationally for the aircraft to operate in these airspaces, and if they don't have that, they can't fly. So that's a lot coming online for the C5 because, as you can see, we do have 3 A model C5s still in the inventory, right? And they're late 60s models. Yeah, so the 2 C model C5s, and there's 1 A model that was an M model test plane. It worked great. The Air Force just didn't buy them. So that's unfortunate for us now, a little short-sighted. But so the B models, for those of you retirees that were here that flew those when they're brand new, they're in their 30s now, and they're starting to show their age. Their flight hours are past what the A models, some of the A models in the boneyard are. So they're getting beat up too. All right, so as you can see, we don't air refuel anymore. That's a big thing. We've only done 4 operational air refuelings since 2011 in the C5. So for those that remember the A and B models, it was almost every time we went overseas, if we had a full load of cargo, we were air refueling. So that's a capability that the M model brings. Okay, so some of the big things, I won't get into the super details on this. There's a ton of stuff coming to the front end. We're talking internet, navigation stuff. Weather radar, that's a big upgrade we're doing right now. We have 2 tails down, so that's been a huge training thing. Some of you may be interested, the lavatories are being replaced. They're going to an airline style bathroom, so it'll be just like 737 style bathroom. It's 1 tank up front, so for those that remember the old days of leaving treats on the ramp at the front and the back of the airplane, hopefully that won't happen anymore. And so we do have a glass cockpit. We're going to a new MFD that's coming online where they're trying to get a commercial off-the-shelf replacement. Because even though it is a new glass panel, it's still pretty outdated technology. All right, Loadmaster specific stuff. The bane of my existence, the dual powered winch. For the C5 folks here, you probably groaned. And we can definitely talk offline about this. We did get a new redesigned winch that is, it's dual powered because it replaces the A and B model winch. For those that don't know, the A models and the B models had a different winch. One was electrically operated, one's hydraulic operated. The B model hydraulic operated winch, similar to the C-17. For reference, it does have a synthetic cable. The issues we have, just to quell this, that is not what we're having problems with. The cable's been great. You could jump rope with it. So the crews don't have a problem with that. It's some of the internal operations of the winch. Definitely offline if you want to talk about it. We have a plan to move forward with it. AMC Test and Evaluation Squadron is going to be doing a deep dive into it. There was some background on some things that probably could have been done better. That was definitely before my time. These guys up here. Chief talked about it a little bit. So the C5 is the only airframe that does not produce a Form 8 qualified loadmaster out of the schoolhouse. There was reasons for that in the beginning, and some of the folks here that lived that when the C5 came online, that unfortunately just doesn't work anymore. Like I said, the C5 is in high demand. We only have 2 operational squadrons. We have 52 airplanes. That's it. So we have 2 reserve units and 2 active duty units. And it's just, we don't have enough with the mission demand on top of what we're trying to do to get training done. So most of our Loadmaster initial qual guys, they're just waiver after waiver, extending them, trying to get them, just because they don't have enough instructors, the missions aren't there, the cargo might not be there. So what we did, we went down to Lackland. We did a deep dive. I'm sure these discussions have happened multiple times, but right now in our history, we've never had this much support from leadership. Like I said, the C5 up to headquarters Air Force is asking questions about what can the C5 do. Probably that hasn't been done in the last 20 years. So we're hoping we got some good, some headway that we're gonna make this happen. That it's gonna take a little bit of funding and things like that, get the equipment, get the contracts in place. It's coming. All right, so AE, who saw my stupid face on AFN? Maybe? Couple people? Okay. So, yeah, I know, right? Thank you. So, this is one of those things that happened with the Good Idea Ferry, and it's not a Good Idea Ferry. There is an operational requirement for this. Like I said, the C-17 is really good at this mission. So is the C-130 in the tactical environment, the C-17 for onesie twosies, getting folks out of theater and getting them to the hospital and getting them patched up. It's fantastic, and everybody's like, why do we need the C-5 to get involved with this? Because the National Defense Strategy is driving us to look at a near-peer adversary. For our Cold War vets, you're like, yeah, duh, this is what we lived, right? Well, we're turning our attention back to that. And what would drive that? Casualty rate. So we're talking casualty rate and distance. For those of you that flew from Vietnam and some of those AORs back to the States, you understand that. Well, this is what we've got to get people thinking in that mode. So we had to come up with a concept of operations to operate with this. So we did some of that stuff. What you saw was kind of the fruition of that. It's coming. It's not there yet because there's some issues with the airplane. We can talk offline about that, but it will happen. This came directly from SecDef level. So the C5 was mentioned specifically. So don't make fun of us about it, jeez. All right, so change 2 for the flight manuals. They're coming. There's some goodness in there. Our lead flight engineer, Senior Master Sergeant Jim Busby, he's getting ready to retire. He worked very hard on this. There's some constraints that we have with our flight manual manager. I know the J model and the C-17, they work with the contractors, and as far as the manufacturer, we don't have that anymore. Lockheed's kind of hands off. They gave us pubs and said, here, you have them. Well, the contractor that runs that, there's a little flaw, the philosophical differences, but that's coming online. It's a little late, but it's gonna get out there. Yeah, I think that's the big things. I don't want to take up any more time. I could talk forever. But we did release the Form F app. So retired folks, we have it's all done on your iPad. It prints a perfect copy of it via Bluetooth to a printer. A lot of work went into that. You can thank Senior Master Sergeant Select Joey Pinkerton, who's taken over for me. He got that done. The winch, this has been our big rocks. Hopefully that'll be getting fixed here soon. And yeah, so I would say be prepared for, just the C5 coming into conversations that maybe it hasn't for a long time or hasn't been, period. Like I said, all hands are on deck. We're going to be using all airlift assets for everything. There's no, your strat only, your attack only. I mean, yeah, obviously they're not going to throw it in a dirt, LZ somewhere. But there's going to be conversations where some of these assets are going to be used in different ways that maybe you've never seen. So, any questions? Yes, sir.
Real quick, on the AE side, do we still have a Civil Reserve Airfleet or craft involvement? Because years ago, we did a whole airback subsystem, AESS, for the Civil Reserve fleet so that the war fighters, if you will, can take care of business, and these guys would be flying hospitals, bringing the injured back.
Sir, yeah, absolutely, and that's still there. Some of those systems, yeah, AE owns all that. That's still part of that. There's specific things, I guess, like talking in this forum is probably not the best, but that the C5 is going to be needed for certain scenarios, and that goes into flight distances and other things. So this wasn't a, hey, we're going to throw out this to use that. This is an additional capability. So they're actually the stanchions and stuff that we use are off the shelf. They already have them built. They use them on the C-17 and C-130, so it's not we're reinventing the wheel. And the procedures, I had to resurrect some of the stuff from the Airbus configuration from the Paltai C kit. So for old folks remember that, a lot of that stuff atrophied, so we had to kind of bring it back.
Thank you.
No worries. All right, Jade, I'll get back to you.
Cool. Got a slide? Quick. Okay, so real quick, for the craft option, I will say that I've been involved in some of these talks and I've been in some of these exercises. Craft is still absolutely a viable option and is utilized in every exercise we do. I won't go high side on this, but just realize all options are on the table for what people are preparing for. So, real quick, are there any legacy 130 folks in here currently flying, especially? Okay. So just so you know, you do have representation at A3V. They work exactly one cubicle next to us. They just couldn't make it. Master Sergeants Pratt and Pascott are absolutely on the team and working for you guys just as much. I'm sure you've been up at Peoria, you've seen them. But just realize they're part of the team that just couldn't make it here. Essentially, for the legacy folks, every one of those billets is eventually going to be a guard billet. Right now we have the last, essentially 2 active duty load masters filling legacy 130 billets, and then when they move on, I'm sure that's going to get filled by a guard position. All the other positions are virtually all filled by guard folks now. But just one more reattack. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, cool. I'm not going to take too much more, especially as we're approaching lunch, but I really appreciate it. It's been an honor. I really want to thank Trank, Dan, and Kim, and all the other people behind the scenes for putting this on, and thanks for letting us speak. Thank you.